Good morning. Good morning, Bridge family. If you can hear me, raise your hand. And then do a little of this. And if you can still hear me, other hand, do a little of that. That was more for me than it was for you. So this is Thanksgiving Sunday, which means it's a Sunday before Thanksgiving. As far as how we do things here, it means nothing different. It just means happens to be the last Sunday before Thanksgiving. And for me, and a lot of traditions after Thanksgiving, I'm sure, are the same with you, is that Thanksgiving and football kind of seem to get merged a little bit. And I played flag football yesterday, and it was the first athletic thing that I've done in years. And I used to be very athletic, and it was reminded, so I was the oldest one on the field, and I was reminded that I am now 36, and I am not 22 anymore. And so these stretches, so if you see me a little tight and you hear a little, just know that it's because I'm getting older, and I can't keep up with youngins anymore. All right, so you guys know we are in a series called More Than Enough, which is a series on gratitude and Thanksgiving because it's November, and this is what we do. We have a Thanksgiving series every November, just like next month we'll have Christmas series, because that's just what we do. All right, and so our series has been called More Than Enough, and the last 2 weeks have been really good about talking about how our gratitude turns into worship, and then we talked about last week about God's faithfulness and being thankful for that. And today I kind of want to flip it a little bit and talk about how we as a church and as a community of believers are called to be and to do more than enough. All right? How many have heard the phrase, blessed to be a blessing? Blessed to be a blessing, right? And last time I preached, we had this phrase, so it was love God, love people, and that was derived from a passage where somebody asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? And he said, love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is similar, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And we've condensed that into love God, love people. The same can be said about blessed to be a blessing. So we're going to jump into Genesis 12, verses 1 through 3. The Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. We are blessed to be a blessing. All right, and this is the beginning of Israel's history, right? This is God calling Abraham out would eventually, like Abraham's descendants would become the Israelites. And these were God's chosen people. So throughout the Old Testament, we learn about the people of Israel. And one of the things that the Lord tells Abraham and tells Jacob and all the kind of founding fathers of Israel, it says that the world will know me through you, right? You are my chosen people, and the world will know who I am through you. And I believe now that is the same case that still applies to the people of God today, right? Except it's not the nation of Israel, it's us, right? It's the church, it's the community of believers, and the people in this world should be able to know who God is through his people, through us. So if God is a loving God, we should then be a loving people, right? If God is a gracious God, we should be a gracious people. If God is a generous God, we should be a generous people. And if God is a God who blesses, then we should be a people who bless, right? And the Bible talks a lot about this concept of blessed to be a blessing. And a lot of the scriptures it uses are kind of have this idea that we can't outgive God, right? So in Luke 6:38, it says, give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Right, we can't outgive God. But today, I don't want us to focus on verses like this because I believe that if we're not careful and we're not insightful, then these passages can lead to the wrong motivation. And I don't want our focus to be a blessing on how we can receive a blessing, but on how we can be the blessing, right? Because verses like this aren't meant to be motivation, they're meant to be assurance. right? They're not motivation, they're assurance. And what I mean by that is that God's saying, hey, you keep blessing people, and I will keep blessing you so that you can keep blessing people, right? This isn't like a get-rich-quick type of thing that God's saying. It's like, hey, as long as you keep giving, if you keep blessing, if you keep pouring out, I will make sure that you keep having enough to continue to do that, right? So I want that to be our focus today. We are blessed to be a blessing, not as a get-rich. It's not a motivation, but it is an assurance. All right, the motivation itself should come from the fact that God's called us to do it, right? And that it matters to the people who receive the blessing, right? The other day, my wife played this clip of a podcast for me. And in it, the host was interviewing this Lutheran minister. Her name was Natalia Turfa. And she said, there's nothing you can do to make God love you any more, and there's nothing you can do to make God love you any less. God doesn't need your good works, but your neighbor does. God is not keeping a ledger. How you act on behalf of your neighbor matters to your neighbor, right? So when we're talking about motivation, another wrong motivation I think we have is that if I just do enough, if I'm just loving enough, if I'm just blessing enough, that somehow that will affect my standing with God, right? I can earn my love. And he's saying, no, God already loves you wholly and completely, right? There's nothing you can do to change that. But what matters is the people in our lives, right? So don't do good things. Don't do good works. Don't bless people so that we have like a higher standing with God. You bless people because people need to be blessed, right? What we do for our neighbor matters to our neighbor. If you're anything like me, you probably have a lot of great ideas. Anybody have a lot of great ideas out there? At least I think I have a lot of great ideas. Anyone think? But you're like, no, I have a lot of great ideas, but really they're not great ideas. But, however, if you're anything like me, you probably only have great ideas. And what I mean by that is like, has anybody ever like, man, this thought, like I should do this thing for this person. They'd be blessed so well and they'd make their lives so much better. Do you guys know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I have a lot of good ideas of good things to do. And it stops, right? It just becomes an idea and no action is actually follows from it. Right? And I think people in general can be really good at thinking things and never move to action. Right? Like we can sit here and table talk and discuss a lot of great ideas and a lot of ways of how we can bless people and then leave and never do it. Right? We can come here on Sundays and think, wow, that's a really powerful sermon, and then go home and not be changed by anything that we heard. Right? Or like I'm going to do in a couple minutes, I can give us some tips about how to be a blessing to others and then go home and not be a blessing to others. Right? We want to be a people who don't just have ideas. We want to be a people of action and follow through, right? Because if it doesn't compel us to action, what good does it do to anybody? James 2:14-18 says this. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. Move to action, right? Praying for people is great, but if that's all we're doing, then we're missing it, right? Like I said, if you see someone without clothes and daily food and you just say to him, hey, go in peace, keep warm and well fed. I'm not going to help you in that, but go in peace and be well fed, right? Show your faith by your deeds. I don't want to be a person who talks a lot without a lot of follow through, right? I don't want to think about all the ways I can be a blessing and not actually be a blessing to anyone, right? I want to be a person who is compelled by action and God's call to be a blessing. We are full swing into the holiday season right now. Our Christmas tree has been up for 2 weeks. November 6th, that went up. Not because we're crazy, not for this reason, anyways, but we looked at the calendar, like, when are we going to do it? I guess November 6th is when we're doing it. So we are definitely full swing in the holiday season, and the reality is, for a lot of people, this could be a difficult season, right? Whether it's not always a financial burden, but sometimes it's just an emotionally hard time for people, right? Maybe they're feeling nostalgic. Maybe they don't get to spend holidays with their family. Maybe they've lost a loved one around this time, and it just floods back all the time. Maybe people just need whoa. Was not anticipating this. I practiced this a couple times. Never happened. It's just a hard time for people sometimes. But I believe that the people of God are called to be a blessing for everyone who's going through a hard time. And I don't believe that we should just limit this to like, oh, who's in a financial need? That's great. And if you can help people like that, help them. But let's look beyond that. Look at the real needs of people who are going through hard times, right? Because this is the most wonderful time of the year, right? I fully believe that. Christmas time, Thanksgiving, it's so great. So let's be a blessing to everyone around us. So with that being said, I'm going to give us 3 tips. These don't come from the Bible. They're just tips, right? So they're not theology. They're just, hey, these are cool things we can do. The first one is be aware, right? And this is exactly what I was just talking about. There are needs all around us. All around us. We want to ask God, hey, open my eyes to see the needs of others. How can I be a blessing? In any way, how can I be a blessing? The second is be practical, right? Praying for people is awesome. Show your deeds as well. Like we just said in James, be practical. How can I actually help someone in this moment at this time? And it doesn't hurt to ask people, how can I help you in this moment, in this time? Right? And be available. And the last one is be humble. Right? Don't bless people with a savior mentality. There's an organization in Montana. They're so great. They're called CLDI, which is Community Leadership and Development Incorporated, I think. And they function on the south side, which is kind of the more rundown area of Billings, Montana. And they are in the community. They're in the elementary schools, and they're just doing such a great work there. And every year, what they used to do, or for a couple of years, is that they would take toy donations from all around the city, right? And they're like new toys, not like used toys, not broken toys, not hand-me-downs, but they would take donations of new toys, and then they would have the names of like some of the people, the families in need, and they would go to their house around Christmas time, knock on a door, and like give the kids presents, right? And the kids, like, wow, this is awesome. Open it up and everything. They were so great. The kids were so excited. The people who got to deliver the presents were so excited. But what they found out is that then they would look at the parents, and the parents would be so dejected. Because while you were doing something out of the kindness of your heart to bless those kids, the parents were like, oh, someone else just provided something that I couldn't for my own kids. And so, with that in mind, they had this genius idea that they would take all of those toy donations still, and what they would do is they would go to the gym of a local elementary school, and they would set up just rows and rows of brand new toys, and then they would open it up for these parents, right? And they would mark down all the toys. Like a bike might have been $100, now it's 15. Or the Lego set might have been $50, now it's 5. And they would let these parents come in with their own money and be like, hey, I can go shop for my kid. Right? I can go up and down the aisle. I can pick what I want to give to my kid, and I have the means to be able to do it. Right? And it was so awesome, and they left with such a dignity, and I got to be there once. I watched it. It was so amazing. So when we are going to be a blessing, it's not a blessing to others if it's harmful, right? And we can't always think that I want to bless someone in the way that I want to bless them. We have to think, I want to be a blessing to you in a way that you're going to receive a blessing. Because a blessing's not a blessing if it's harmful for someone else. Right? So that's what I mean by be humble by being a blessing. Right? Because blessing others, it feels really good. right? How many has ever just given someone something and felt really good about that? That's great. But maybe we need to remember to keep blessings about the people we are blessing. All right? All right. With that in mind, I am going to dismiss us for table talk. And you have just 2 questions. And they're not like questions that you answer questions. They're questions designed for you guys to share. Because it is the holidays, and I love that we're at tables, and it's like, hey, how can we stir each other to be blessings? And I think part of that is through testimony and then through ideas. So go ahead and take the next few minutes and just discuss your table talk questions.